Well, have you ever wondered how wine glasses and wine bottles got their iconic shape?
You know what, now that you ask, I kind of do. WNY's Dan Berman visited a local winery to learn more about the history of wine bottle and glass making. Take a look.
When you come out to a winery, you're typically used to trying out different tastings, but little did you know there's actually a history behind the glasses itself.
This is a traditional white wine glass, and this is a traditional, although there are many different sizes, of a red wine glass.
John Poulos is a wine educator at Wagner Vineyards Estate Winery. Him and his winery take pride in not only serving wine, but giving a rich history behind it. When you go to visit a winery, you may notice that the type of glass you receive is based on the type of wine you have selected. This is due to the glass's exposure of oxygen.
But when you first open a bottle of wine, people call it breathing. And the different opening in this red wine glass is the red wine has tannin. The red wine is a little bit different than a white wine. And you pour a little bit in the glass and you oxidize it. And then you get a nose on it. And it is a little different than drinking a white wine that has no tannin.
Glass was first used to bottle wines in the 17th century, with many early bottles coming in many different shapes and sizes. There are three regions famous for making wine, known as Burgundy, Bordeaux, and Alsace-Moselle. Around 1850, the Burgundy region of France introduced a uniform bottle for the wines of their region, famous for two popular wines we know and love today.
The easiest bottle to make at the time was a sloped bottle. Bottles machines were created in 1821, and so a uniform bottle was possible, and the Burgundy region was the first. Pinot Noir, Chardonnay are both from the Burgundy region. They share the same shape and size bottle.
The last of the three great wine bottles is called the Alsace-Moselle bottle. Its height, compared to the other bottles, comes from its different mean of transportation.
These bottles traveled on ships, big sailing ships, had lots of room in the bottom. These bottles travel on the Rhine River, and they didn't have the storage on a riverboat that a sailing ship did. So they made them much taller and thinner so they could fit in the front of the ship.
When glass blowers make glass bottles, they use a device called a pontil rod. During the glass-making process, they cut the bottle from the pontil, creating a bump on the bottom of the bottle, which eventually became known as a punt, resulting in the bottle not sitting flat.
But what they began doing is pushing the bottom of the bottle in a little bit, and it became called a punt. And they found out, especially with the Bordeaux bottles that did mostly red wine, that the particles in these early days that weren't filtered like today would gather around the punt. So when you pour the wine out, a lot of it would be stopped by the punt and by the shoulders of the Bordeaux bottle. As time went on, the punts got even bigger. Today, they're not needed. Today, they're much flatter bottles.
Now I want to talk to you about the new book that you just came out with here. It's called Looking at Wine Through a Different Window. John, talk to us a little bit about what this book entails if people want to read about this and more history about wine in general.
I pour wine a little bit differently than anyone else does. I don't use terms like full-bodied and minerality and tell people what fruits they're going to taste, because no one can define those terms. No one tastes the same fruit. And what I do is I give them the background, the DNA, and the history of the book. And I did a great deal of research, and I put it together in a book that has done and is doing very, very well.
And to receive a copy of John's book, it is available for purchase at the winery's gift shop. Wagner Vineyards is open daily from 10 to 5. And to reserve a tasting, you can just head to their website you see right there on your screen. Happy Tuesday to all of you. Kurt and Crystal, we'll send it back to you guys.
Dan, really interesting story. Thank you. Switching gears this morning, the